congratulate Senator Amida Kibwana, especially elect. I think she has been doing tremendous work, especially in legislative business. I'm happy, Mr. Speaker, these are issues we have been grappling as the Senate Public Accounts Committee. As the Vice Chairperson of Senate Public Committee, one of the audit queries that we have always considered has been on the issue of on-source revenue and also the running of the county treasury, Mr. Speaker. So, Speaker, the amendment of Public Finance Management Act is to make sure and put in place necessary mechanisms for accountability purposes and to ensure revenue collection, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, normally in our brief as members of the public accounts and Senate, we normally ask revenue potential of each and every county. Mr. Speaker, you find there is no county, and I want to dare, because I have sat in the public accounts, that has ever met revenue system. I remember today there was a county that we were meeting, the neighboring county of Laikipia, and they had missed their own revenue target by over 411 million, apart from the revenue they had set, which is not realistic. But when you look at, for example, Nandi, according to CRA, we have a potential target of 630 million. But Nandi has never gone beyond 300 to 400 million. So it means most of the counties are missing their own source revenue target by a half of what they target, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, borrowing the best practices from the National Treasury. And you know, by the way, this in any way does not undermine devolution. I know the people who imagine and think that when the Senator Amida proposes that they should, in consultation with National Treasury, many people want to imagine that we are undermining devolution. We are not. We are complementing, because they are mutual and distinct, and complementarity, borrowing what we call best practices, Mr. Speaker. And I know this consultation word was famous during Grand Coalition government, and I think it ended in an extent of even the Constitution being amended then, during the Grand Coalition arrangement between former President Mwai Kibaki and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. So what we are saying is consultation. It does not mean that you are loading over another entity, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, and then there is a challenge in revenue collection. You find, like, for example, Nandi County, you find they produce a number of triplicate receipts. But the receipt they surrender to the county treasury is only one receipt. So where is the other two receipts? That is how they are stealing money, Mr. Speaker. You find the serial numbers of receipts they issue to border sticker. For example, in Nandi, border pay beyond 300 shillings per sticker. Mr. Speaker, the ones of single permit, the one on land rates, rents, fees, Mr. Speaker, daily receipts of parking receipts, Mr. Speaker. It always becomes a challenge, because sometimes our counties or some crooked county government officials take advantage and steal. Is the issue different receipts, same receipts, but different serial number? I remember in some occasion, Mr. Speaker, there was a time every evening when Nandi used to bank their money at Kenya Commercial Bank in Kapsabet, they used to lose over 96,000 every evening. So there is a lot of leakages. There is a lot of, and you know, they have set up cess points. Mr. Speaker, I don't understand why would I pay, Mr. Speaker, cess from Nairobi when I'm taking stones here, building stones from Thika. I pay, when I enter to Nairobi, I pay cess. As I enter to Nakuru, I pay cess. As I enter to Wazingishu, I pay cess. As I enter to Nandi, I pay cess. Mr. Speaker, I think we are encouraging double taxation by counties. Why don't I pay cess from the origin of the product or at the end of the delivery project? Because you are overcharging. Because you will end up paying cess points. But this money, Mr. Speaker, that counties collect do not have value, Mr. Speaker. We have never seen value. For example, when you go to Kapsabet County market, and I know Senator Otsosi knows this, the county askaris and county revenue officers will enforce with fire and fury. But when you go to Kapsabet town market, You will get there is no toilets, there is no clean water, there is no electricity, no one is collecting dirt at our Mama Mboga who are at Kapsabet Town Market. But when it comes to collecting receipts, you will see governors sending their askaris, sending their revenue officers, Mr. Speaker, and that money at the end of the day ends to the county treasury. Mr. Speaker, and that is, there is no value. You go to Kaptumo, you go to Mosoriat, you go to Kabiet, you go to Maraba, you go to Kobuja. Women are selling, even in Mosoriat, where I come from, women are selling along the road in an open market. When it rains, they can't sell. When it is dust, they can't sell. But counties will be quick to go and collect the revenue. You go to Chereragei Center, Mr. Speaker, and other centers across Nandi, county will go for motorbike stickers. For example, in Chemase, they don't have what we call a shed, border shed, but the county of Nandi will go ahead and collect stickers or demand that, for example, the motorbike space, for example, in Soba, for example, Rikibokat, Mr. Speaker, Center, or somewhere in Mombwa, Mr. Speaker, or Chipterwa. Yet there is the shed that has been given the standard that demands that, because, Mr. Speaker, the former president, Mwai Kibaki, used to tell us, kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea. And that has been the essence that, Mr. Speaker. So, Speaker, I don't know whether the mover noted Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether the mover noted that we did pass a law, Facilities Improvement Act 2023, where we allowed, through cost sharing aspect, if we are collecting money in Kapsabet County Referral Hospital or any other hospital, or even here in Bagadi Hospital, we have passed an act to allow you to spend money at source for ambulance services, for support services, which I think this act, I don't know, when the committee of the whole, we should be able to relook at it, because there is a law that allows counties to spend at source. And more specifically, Mr. Speaker, on the aspect of cost sharing in our hospitals, Mr. Speaker, so that that one can be captured. The reason, the wisdom of passing Facilities Improvement Act to spend at source, because, for example, you go to an hospital like Kapsabet or Mosoriat or Chereragei, Mr. Speaker, or Kabiet, you take somebody at night, Mr. Speaker, and you want to take your person to MTRH, a sick person, you are told there is no fuel. And our people in Nandi end up paying 1,000 to 2,000 shillings so that they can get an ambulance. The issue of drugs is not in the hospital, for example, and that is why when you go to Kapsabet, it is not a good business. But you find there are so many chemists. The reason there are many chemists in Kapsabet town is because there are no drugs in Kapsabet County Referral Hospital. If there were no drugs, it would have been easier, Mr. Speaker. So I think at the essence of this transparency that we are talking about is very critical, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, even the other day, Mr. Speaker, and this has been reported in Kapsabet police station, there was a lady who within the hospital of Kapsabet County Referral Hospital, there was an attempt rep within the hospital of Kapsabet Referral Hospital, Mr. Speaker. And I know Senator Amida, being a member of health committee, is aware that there is OB, where even patients are not safe. And you saw what happened in Garissa, because she sits in the health committee, Mr. Speaker. So you can see hospitals must be the place where our patients feel safe. Because if women can be sexually molested, allegations that were in Garissa County Referral Hospital, that we are seeing in many hospitals, including Kapsabet County Referral Hospital. And the sad reality, Mr. Speaker, is you find the management committee of County Referral Hospital go and sit and tell the complainant that drop the charges so that you don't taint the image of the hospital. I think that's an abuse to the dignity of women, Mr. Speaker, across the country. And therefore, when we talk about this Facilities Improvement Act, it is important that Senator Amida note this so that as you proceed with your amendment, Mr. Speaker. Finally, on the issue, because so that I finish with the other limp, is, Mr. Speaker, the county revenue system. Mr. Speaker, we used to have people like Jambo Pay, Safaricom. You know, we were asking, Mr. Speaker, you remember during, and I know you have been practicing in this town, when NMS, No, Mr. Speaker, Senate Speaker has been a senior practitioner in this Nairobi city. Why is the retired Jai referring that you have been practicing in Eldoret? I think he needs some information. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, what I wanted to say, in the last session, during NMS, you are aware that the revenue collection was partnership with KRA. Their organizations are Mutembei. Mutembei, there was Safaricom. No one is telling us. Counties are hiring revenue systems. And I know the chairperson of Special Public Investment Committee will tell us later in his contribution. No one knows how much is being paid through agency fee. If Safaricom is collecting, if Mutembei is collecting, Mr. Speaker, if KRA is collecting, we need transparency and we need value for money, Mr. Speaker. Because we were seeing even in a county, I don't know which county was it Kuala or Kilifi, where the agency fee was more than half of what they are collecting. And I don't think it is fair, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the county treasury, even as we do the system, it must be simple, transparent, and verifiable. And Mr. Speaker, the best practice we can borrow is from KRA. I know to some of us, KRA is not a good name to listen to, but it is the one that collects our revenue on behalf of all of us. And therefore, we should start, and I want to say, even as we outsource the system, we must request counties to do automatic revenue system. Even in your county, Bomet County, for example, Mr. Speaker, must be told if they are using automated revenue system and how much agency fee are you paying, Mr. Speaker. And that is why most counties are going for I think they are using a principle that you shoot at the sun and land on the moon. For example, Nandi, according to CRA, I'm trying to recall the Bomet revenue potential. For example, Nandi, CRA revenue potential that we should collect per year is 630 million. But normally we are not going beyond 300 million. It means there is a lot of leakages, there is a lot of corruption, there is a lot of ineffectiveness. Mr. Speaker, sometimes you are told the systems are down when you want to pay for any of these source revenue, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, this finally, in number 3 point, Mr. Speaker, is the county secretary shall submit copies of the quarterly statement and report to the Senate and the National Treasury. I think this will allow transparency and accountability so that we know when Mutembei, for example, is collecting for Meru County, how much are they collecting and how much agency fees are they taking. If, for example, Safaricom is collecting on behalf of Makueni County, how much are they charging, how much are they raising, and how much is the agency fee, and what is the contractual obligation? That is what we really want to see. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, when you submit these reports to county assemblies, because county assemblies are the primary oversight, Mr. Speaker. They are supposed to do the primary oversight. They are supposed to be part of the oversight to ensure the collection revenue system is up to par, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I agree with this statement that we must submit to the Senate and National Assembly, not National Treasury, and to the Senate and the National Treasury, Mr. Speaker, and also to county assembly. I know some people, when they listen to National Treasury, will say that we are undermining the devolution. We are just borrowing best practices. But I don't see the need, on another flip side, Senator Amida, as you consult. I know the minority leader was airborne the other week, maybe he's telling you the fairy stories of the sojourn and the journey across the world. But Mr. Speaker, I would be requesting that, why should you submit to National Treasury? We just submit to County Assembly and the Senate. Because if we submit, those are enough so that we don't see that national government is overreaching the functions of devolution, Mr. Speaker. And finally, the county assemblies, we must build the capacity of county assembly. Mr. Speaker, my only concern, and you know I'm the biggest supporter of MCS, even as we give these powers to members of county assembly, can they stop being rubber stamp of governors? Because sometimes we give them powers, you go to a function, an MCS stands and becomes a public relations officer of a governor. I saw that one in Vihiga County. Our MCA who is supposed to be doing oversight is the one explaining governor's project more than the governor, Mr. Speaker. And I always get surprised. I was in that county and I was like, what is happening? MCAs are supposed to do the oversight. We are pushing for what development fund, Mr. Speaker, for MCAs, which this House and the President and all of us have agreed. They should get what development fund. Mr. Speaker, we are amending the PMF Act to give them financial autonomy so that they don't wait for CCM Finance to give them resources. We are supporting financial autonomy of MCAs. Number 3, we are pushing SRC, Mr. Speaker, to review the remuneration and salaries of MCAs so that they are not reduced to overglorified beggars, because we know MCAs are the last line of defense. And I have told Secretary General Karanja of Association AMCA, Association of MCAs in this country, Mr. Speaker. And I am telling AMCA to bring a legislative proposal so that we amend the law and give AMCA a legal impetus, Mr. Speaker. Just like SOCAT, just like CUG, just like a CAF, County Assemblies Forum of the Speakers, Mr. Speaker. So even as we push the interest of MCAs, to whoever much is given, much is needed. So as we say MCAs to be given what development fund, be given financial autonomy, be given better salaries and remuneration and allowances and all the support through SRC and government, Mr. Speaker, we also request of them to do their work without fear or favor from anybody, without fearing the governor, without fearing anybody, because that is their work, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in fact, when I went to Vihiga, I realized the MCAs, let me not go through that story, Mr. Speaker, because I was horrified. I could not sleep, because I thought the roles have changed there. In fact, it's the governor who is explaining the role of MCAs, and the MCAs is explaining the role of governors more than. Mr. Speaker, finally on transferred function, I think we have agreed on this. Functions, cost must follow functions. For example, health. Under the 4th schedule, the issue of standards, Mr. Speaker, belongs to the national government. But did you see the other day when there was crisis of labor within the health sector? The COG went into hiding. They disappeared. Yet when we are discussing about resources, they say, you know, health is devolved. But when there are labor crises in health sector, there is no national government can you handle. So they must have, Mr. Speaker, they must tell us the truth. If health is devolved, why are people missing drugs in hospital? Why are there labor crises? Mr. Speaker, interns issue was resolved. Laboratory technicians are still on strike, negotiation. They are yet to be given recognition. Clinicals were on strike, Mr. Speaker. But when you get Council of Governors, they say health is devolution. But when you tell them, can you address crisis in health? They say national government is the one to address, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, on this transferred function, we request, and the President has shown goodwill, and I know the PS in charge of devolution are assigned those transferred functions. But what we are saying, and I've heard Fununu, Mr. Speaker, and I'm happy Senator Ed is here.